Hello, my friends. How are you today? I am Sue Pelland, and I am here to help you fall in love with applique. My job is to teach people how to applique in a whole new way that's faster, more fun, easier on you, easier on those tired hands, and easier to stitch and sew. So, welcome to our Sewing in Slippers with Sue. We do this every Tuesday at 11 a.m., and I wish for you all to join us here on Facebook Live. You can also join me over on YouTube, and that way you can register, you can click the bell for notifications when I'm going live, and you can join me every Tuesday at 11. Now, today's going to be a little short version of our Sewing in Slippers with Sue. Usually we sew together for about an hour, but today I have to go get my hair done. I had COVID last week and I had to cancel my hair appointment. So the only time she could reschedule was for 12 o'clock today. And that means I am only here for a half an hour today. So I'm going to dive right into our topic. You can see from behind me that I love to do floral applique quilts. This one in the back is My Magical Garden. And when I can't garden in the New England winter, I like to garden on my quilts. So I always include some flowers on my quilts, whether it is beautiful blocks of flowers like on My Magical Garden, or just a little flower added here and there like you see on gradations on my back wall. Well, one of our members of the gradations course was thinking she might want to add a bee to her gradations project. So that's what I got prepared for today. I got some black and some yellow fabrics all ready to go. And we are going to tackle how to make a bee. Now, if you have missed us in the past, we have done all types of different critters in our critter series. So I've got my little Tom Turkey here. I took out my critter series box because I wanted to, we did a pig at one time. I wanted to look back and see what we had done for a critter with our bee. And I know I did one years and years ago, and that bee ended up in our critter series, which is in our Ahead of the Curve membership. So if you fall in love with applique and you want to applique some more with me, we do have a membership where we get together every month, several times to applique together, whether it's an open sew session or we do some specific classes to make specific quilts. We have all kinds of opportunities to get together and create together. So I'm looking through my critter series box, and I knew that I had some wonderful photos of different bees. And the little bee that I made in our critter series was rather cute, but it was very simplistic and it was a different profile. It was a bee that was flying. So this little bee is flying through the air and he might be hovering over a flower, but I would love to see a little bee that is cupped over a flower, similar to this picture that I found on the internet. So I'm going to share my screen because whoops, that wasn't the right one. I want to share my screen so that you can see what I'm seeing. And guess what? That's not happening right now. So I don't want to waste time finding that setting to share my screen. So instead, I'm going to dive right into that bee. And I'm looking at a picture on my website, and I'm going to put the location for that image in the chat. So I think the bee that I like best is over here on YouTube. And let's see if I can share that YouTube video of the bee flying over this beautiful lavender. So I'm going to share that photo because I think it's important for you to be able to create adorable little images like what we're going to do, it's good to work from nature. So if you go out there and you search the internet for some of our little bee pictures, you're going to come up. I just searched bee hovering over a flower. So that's my search key. Search key is bee hovering over a flower. And I want you to be able to use that same type of a search and be able to come up with inspiration photos. So I'm going to use my inspiration photo that's over on screen number 2 over here that you can't see. And I'm going to share that inspiration photo with you, or that video of the bee hovering over the flower. I'm going to share that with you. Well, let's see if I can show that one. There it is. And so you can use that as inspiration as well. So let's go over to my workstation. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my other camera. Here it is. There we go. Okay, so we've got my overhead camera, and you can see that I am all set up for demo days. We have demo days happening today over here at Sue Pellin Designs. So if you would like to come to demo days today, you can absolutely sign up on my website for demo days, okay? When you sign up for demo days, you're also going to get a 15% off coupon that you can use on my website. So let me show you that banner right here. Hold on just a second. And we're going to show that one. When you register for demo days, you can come and get the Zoom invitation for our demo days experience. And that is a 2-day demonstration of rotary cut applique. So it's similar to what we're doing today, but we're going to be really diving in to topics that are rotary cut applique topics. So today, when I'm on Sewing and Slippers with Sue, I like to just play with different applique challenges. And that's what we're going to do here today. We're going to play with some applique challenge of creating this little bee. So the first thing that I want to do to create my little bee, and I'm looking at a photo on my website. So you can go and look up a photo by typing in that search term, bee hovering over a flower. And the first thing I want to do is create a little oval shape. My oval shapes are made with the Hearts and More tool. I'm going to use that straight side of the tool to make that oval as big as I need it to be. But realize the oval made with Hearts and More is going to have a real flat back. So I folded my fabric in 4s, and I'm going to extend my circle. I don't want to cut a circle today, so I'm not going to cut from 90 to 90. I'm going to slide over, and I'm going to cut at right about the 30 mark. And then this straight edge gives me an oval shape that I can grow longer or shorter. Now I can't make my oval wider than this 30, because if I do, I'm going to end up with a point like a heart at the top of my oval. If I go past 30 over to 20, 10, or even the 90 mark, I'm going to end up with kind of a bone shape on the end of my oval, and I don't want that. So how can I change the size of this oval? What if I wanted my bee to be a great big bee? Well, I can change the size of the circle that I'm working with. So I'm actually going to work a little bit bigger. I'm going to use my Hearts and More template B, the 2.5-inch end, and I'm going to mark from the letter E over here over to the 30-degree marking. Now, if you have a really sharp rotary cutter, you're going to be able to cut right around these tools to make that oval shape. If your rotary cutter is dull, like this one right here, it might take a couple of goes at it, but let me just find a sharper rotary cutter. And then when you open up your shape, you've got your cute little oval. Well, I think this is going to be great for the body of my bee. This is going to be quite a large bee because I want to show you the technique without doing it in tiny, tiny little pieces. And I was on a chat with my friend Sherry Noel yesterday. Her block of the month quilt has a great big 12-inch bee. So when I think bees, I always think tiny little things, and she made me rethink my bees. She made it great big. Well, on the back of my bee, I want my bee to be hovering over my flower. So on the back of my bee, I'm going to have the back part of the bee coming in something like this. And then I want the tail coming down and around and down again and around. So really what I'm trying to do, I'm sketching this little bee, and then I'm going to figure out how to cut that with my tools. Now over here, I'm going to need a little head for my bee as well. So this is the look I'm going for. I'm going to go with a couple little legs over here so that he can grab onto that flower. So this is the look of the bee that I'm going for, and I'm looking to make it about a 6-inch size. I know that if I can make the bee with the Hearts and More tool, I can go much, much smaller by choosing a different circle size. So this is a great size to show you on the screen, but if I'm making it for a tiny little bee for say a 12-inch block and I have a flower in there, I need my bee much smaller, I'm just going to adjust the size of the tool that I'm using, but it's going to be a similar technique. So how am I going to make this back of the bee? It's curved on down quite steeply, and then I've got this curve right here as well. Now I'm going to single layer this fabric because today we're just playing. After I play with this bee, I will write up instructions, and that will go to my members on how to make this bee. But right here when we're playing, we're just going to figure it out together. So I'm going to take off the yellow, and I'm going to look at my curves right here, and look at that. My 5-inch curve is exactly the curve that I just freehand drew. Actually, you know what? It's the 4-inch curve. I thought it was the 5, but no, it's the 4-inch curve right there. So I'm just going to cut that 4-inch curve right around. And then we're going to figure out what to do next. So I've got my little 4-inch curve here for the back side of that bee. Now I want it to come in this way. And look, that 4-inch curve again matches right up with the curve that I sketched out. So let me go ahead and cut that curve. And now I've got the little tail of my bee. He's looking good. I want it to be off the back of this piece, but I want a slight curve right here to join the two together. So I'm just going to position this the way I want it to go. I want my curve to kind of start here and end here. So I'm marking that black fabric where I want the curve to go. And I don't want it to be a drastic curve. I just want it to be very, very slight. Well, the bigger the circle, the slighter the curve. So I'm going to go with my biggest circle on Hearts and More. I'm going to go with the Hearts and More template D and just make a very slight curve right there. So here we go. We've got the body of our bee. We've got his little tail, really shiny in the picture. So I might need to put a little bit of white on here to make it look shiny. And now we need a little head for our bee. So let's see, we're going to make our little head, and I had sketched it out. Now I've lost it. Where did it go? It's here. Now the head looks like another small oval. I can see that shape. It's kind of starting to look like an oval. So let me go ahead and fold that in half and then in half again. And we can see which curve we could use to make that slight oval shape. Now I'm picking up template A large end, and I'm going from the 30 over to the edge of that curve around the E, maybe the F, and I'm going to run my rotary cutter right along that curve and then just along the straight line. Now you'll notice I didn't have a lot of the straight line, so it's going to be a very small oval. So here we go. Does that look like a good head for our bee? Not bad, not bad. Now, the next few shapes that I'm going to make, you could absolutely do these with your stitching on your bee. So my bee applique right now could be done. I do need some wings on my bee. Now the wings could either be some iridescent fabric, or my wings could be just stitched out using black thread on my background. That way they look clear and you can see right through the wings, and I could stitch those out with some black thread. But I do think that for the sake of clarity here, I'm going to make some wings, and if I can find a little bit of iridescent fabric, that would be really wonderful. So let's see what I've got. So on my original bee, I was looking down at the bee, so I saw two wings, and they were kind of a heart-shaped wing. Well, I don't want a little heart-shaped wing this time. I want to try to make it look a little bit more realistic. So I am searching to see if I have any fabric made with, when we had done a undersea creatures, here it is. I had made some beautiful fabric, this iridescent fabric, using Misty Fuse and some of those fibers that melt. So some of those heat sensitive fibers. So this is one of the pieces that I made for a, oh gosh, what is that called? Oh my goodness, my brain is not working today. Hey, I'm just getting over from COVID and I still have COVID brain. So you will notice that my brain isn't working really well today. But the idea is this jellyfish, I made him with some iridescent fibers that I put on Misty Fuse. Now that would be gorgeous for the wing of my bee. So you could certainly use some of that type of fabric that we made ourselves. So if you're looking for how we made that fabric, go back to the Sewing in Slippers episode where we made the jellyfish. And Elaine can tell you, all you have to do is search jellyfish on my Facebook page, and you will come up with that episode, and then you can recreate this material here that we made out of the Angelina fibers and the Misty Fuse. So that's probably what I would do. And I don't like the shape of that wing. That was the shape of my jellyfish, but the idea is there. I just need to slim that down and make my wings out of a piece of Angelina fiber like that. So here we go. We've got our little bee. We have an idea for how we're going to make our wing, or we could simply stitch the wing out in our quilting. Now, the same thing with the little legs. We can either cut our little legs as tiny little thin strips of fabric. And all I'm going to do is use that same curve that I already had from my 4-inch tool, move the tool over slightly and cut a little thin strip. Now, why am I cutting these curves for his legs? Well, his legs do kind of bend down under him. So I want these nice little thin strips for his legs. And how am I going to applique these, by the way? Well, there's Misty Fuse on the back of my fabric. So that fabric will fuse down when I cut these little legs out and I put them down on my fabric. But before I do that, I'm going to cut those legs a little bit smaller like this. So I'm going to make one like this and one over here. And then I'm going to make them kind of jointed. So I'm going to make another little section. This one's a little thicker. I'll probably thin that down, or I'll use this little thinner section. So I'll make a little jointed leg like this. And then I'm going to play around with the sizes and the shapes, right? So I might not want them quite so long. This way, I'm going to trim that down. This way, I'm going to trim this down. And there we go. I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to trim it down this way to make a joint. And then I'm going to trim it down this way to make his little joint. And that's the idea. Now, I certainly would be doing this with a little bit more care, but as I said, I only have half an hour today, so I'm going to get this done pretty quickly. Now, I think it's a little bit turned up too much. Let's pull them back here, and we'll just make that little joint without it being too elbowy. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing for his little front leg, and his front leg needs to be tiny. So we're just going to do a tiny little front leg here. And like this, so that he's going to grab onto that flower once he finds it. Now, of course, our bees need little antennae as well. So I'm going to give you an option of doing this with these little thin strips. And these will stick when you fuse them. Even though they're only a few threads wide, they certainly will stick when you fuse them. But I find that these are a little heavy for antennae. So even though I can fuse these down and they look rather adorable like that, okay, we can also do this just in our stitching. So you could simply go up with some black thread, your blanket stitching around here, you go up with your black thread, turn to a straight stitch, and just go up off the top for his little antennae. Now I think I'm going to turn these around. I think I want his antennae, his antennae going a little bit curved down this way. That looks a little bit more realistic and to the picture like that. So there you have it, my friends. We can make our jellyfish into his wings. We can just use that 4-inch curve for the back end of his tail. We use the Hearts and More template B for the center oval for his body. And then we use the Hearts and More A for the oval for his head. We made some cute little legs here just with strips of fabric and his front legs so he can grab onto that flower. Now, I think he needs a flower to grab onto. I think a cone flower would be absolutely beautiful. So I would have my, my stem arching up like this, coming up. I would have a nice yellow cone for my cone flower. Let's go ahead and make the cone for the cone flower. So the cone flower is going to be just an oval, but I don't need the full oval this time. I only need a part of that oval because I just need the top half of the cone. So let's go ahead and go again from 30. And this time I'm going to angle this straight edge out slightly. So I'm going to make my cone tapered a little bit. So there, we have the top end of our cone like this. I'm going to make the bottom end of the cone curved as well. So I'm going to come up here with my Hearts and More B, and I'm just going to curve that bottom end of the cone. And then for the flower, I'll probably want some purple petals hanging down this way. Now, the purple petals can absolutely be, I'm looking for purple fabric here. I hadn't planned on making a flower because I'm running out of time, but let's go ahead and use what I've got. I've got some blue fabric. I don't have any purple fabric. Oh, there's some purple. There we go. So we're going to take our flower shapes, our flower petal shapes. This is a 3-inch leaf. Now, I love 3-inch leaves because they're so easy and fast to cut, but I think we need a rounded end for the end of our cone flower. So I'm just going to put template A on that 3-inch leaf, round that end up just like this. And now we've got a little petal for our cone flower. Let me do that again. I should have my rotating mat here, which would have made that easier to cut, but there you have it, just like that. We can make our cone flower petals rounded like that. Or we can simply take our piece of fabric, fold it like this, and we can make nice, long, graceful petals like this. I don't want them full width A full width petal is going to be huge. I think that's too big for this coneflower and this bee. But let's go ahead and do it. Oh my goodness, let me change my blade. Thank goodness we're doing a test run, because at applique school today, I don't want to have these challenges with my blades. So let me go ahead and change my rotary cutter, change my blade. Now, as you saw, all I did was fold my fabric this way. And I said, if I use the full teardrop shape right here, it's too wide. So let's go out to 30. I'm still going to use the end of that teardrop shape that's on the tool just for consistency's sake. But I'm going to go out to the 30, keep my fabric folded and move the tool down. 30 to N. Over and over again is going to give me these beautiful little coneflower petals that are longer and straighter than the one made with the 3-inch leaf. So actually, I think this coneflower petal is a better shape for me. So I'm going to recut this one so it's a little bit narrower. I used the 90 initially just to show you how wide that piece was. It's too wide. So instead, go to the 30 and go ahead and trim up that petal so you can have all of your petals just about the same size and shape. Now, Mother Nature doesn't make all of her petals exactly the same size and shape. So if some of your petals are a little bit shorter, or they're not quite as round, or they're a little pointy on one end, I don't want you to stress over those little details. Applique is supposed to be fun. So let's make it fun by not stressing over all the little details. If your flower comes out looking like a flower, hey, you win. And you've got a beautiful applique flower to add to your quilt. So let's not stress about perfection. Let's get something done that's pretty, fun, and there you have it. We've got a beautiful little bee. He's hovering over a cute little coneflower. We're going to put our stem going up and arched over, and our little bee block will be done. All right, everybody, I'm coming back to you. I do need to head off for my hair appointment today. So I'm glad that you came to this little mini version of Sewing in Slippers with Sue. I hope you had fun making another critter with me. I'm going to go ahead and add this arching bee into our critter series for members only. If you are not yet a member of Ahead of the Curve, you can join us right at SuePellenDesigns.com. You're going to hear a little bit about that, but you're going to hear more about my magical garden tonight when you come to our applique school. I keep saying tonight. It's this afternoon. It's 4 o'clock this afternoon. So come see me at 4 o'clock today. I'm going to be on Zoom. So you're not going to catch it here on Facebook Live. So go ahead and use the link that I gave you to register. It's only those registered members that are going to get the 15% off their order. And of course, my Ahead of the Curve members as well. You always get the bonuses and coupons that I offer to the public when we have our demo days and our applique school. So have fun making your very own little bee to hover over your beautiful little flowers on your amazing applique quilts. This is how fast and fun it can be. If you enjoyed playing with applique with me today, we're going to start at the very beginning. We're going to start with putting fusible on your fabrics, all about the tools that I use to cut my applique shapes. I will demo all of those tools for you this afternoon at 4 o'clock. So come to Applique Demo Days. I think you'll be glad you did, and you'll learn a whole lot more about me and my process for fun, beautiful, fusible applique. Bye, everybody. Have a great day, and I will see you all again soon.